So I find it to be a law that when I want to do right, evil lies close at hand. For I delight in the law of God in my inner being, but I see in my members another law waging war against the law of my mind and making me captive to the law of sin that dwells in my members. Wretched man, wretched woman that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death? These are the words from Romans 7:21 through 24, verses 21 through 24. And these words define most of my Christian walk for so long. I was a church girl, so I was raised in the church. Like, I was all about that life. Like, ask me a question, I knew it. Oh, what's the answer? Moses. Oh, what's the answer? Abraham. Jesus. What? Bam, mic drop, right? So I was really that kid. Like, I would go to public school, and I'd be like, oh, Jimmy, do you know Jesus? Because you need to know Jesus, right? Like, that's really the way that I was when I was younger. And I loved the church. I loved growing in knowledge of who God was. And in my inner being, it rang true, right? However, I didn't know that things would get a little bit more complicated as I grew up. So at the age of 10 years old, I was introduced to pornography, which a lot of us in this room have been introduced to, and we're too ashamed to admit it. I was too ashamed for years to admit it. And it just gripped me, right? It gripped my heart, it gripped my mind. I remember where I was at, I remember what I was doing, and I probably even remember the image. I try not to remember it, but it was that, like, on point. And so I carried the secret with me for years. Growing up in the church, still a good girl, you know, in most people's eyes, but I was addicted to pornography. I went to it for everything. I mean, just the ways that I would use it, the way that it had me captivated was really just amazing, right? But I couldn't understand because I was a Christian, right? Like, I knew about God and I loved God, right? Like, I really wanted to serve him. However, every single time, I would go straight back to pornography and I would crawl back to God, please, Lord, I swear, last time. And then, like, 2 hours later, right? Sad, sad, sad day. So cut to, I'm 17 years old in college, and I was just tired. I was tired of the weight. I was tired of the shame, of the guilt. So I locked myself in one of the lobbies and turned off the lights, and I straight up just went at it with God. I was like, listen, I'm tired. I've done this for too long. I'm tired of the shame. I can't change who I am. I've tried. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm sorry. And I gave up on myself in that moment. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I can't be a Christian, clearly. So, cut to the next day, I'm at church. Don't know how that happened, right? But no, my mom picks me up. That was what we would do. And so it was a Saturday when I basically renounced my faith. Sunday, went to church. I'm sitting in the pew. Couldn't really get into it because I'm just like, I'm not about this life. And my pastor just knew my life, right? He opens up the Bible, and I had, again, been living in Romans 7:21 through 24, wretched woman that I am. He opens up the Bible and goes to Romans 8:1, right? For now, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And it was like my eyes just open. I was like, is that a verse that's in the Bible? Like, right next to the, verses I've been reading my whole life? Is that actually there? So I get back to my dorm room after church, trying to keep it together. And the next day, I go to Campus Crusade for Christ, which is basically a parachurch organization. They're talking about Romans 8:1. I'm like, could you stop? Like, chill out with my life. You're getting too close. And again, Romans 8:1 in that same week just kept coming up. And so I'm like, okay, this is not a coincidence. I don't know what to do with it, but it's not a coincidence. So, cut to, I'm in the shower one day, right? And I'm thinking about all this stuff and what it means. And before, and before I can get the words like, how, right? Because in my mind I'm thinking, how could God still want me? Before I could even get that phrase out, I just broke down and cried. So I am balled up in my shower, just crying, right? And recognizing that at the moment when I was desperate to leave God in my sin and my pain, he was desperate to come and get me, right? And that he loved me enough to come and get me in the middle of my sin, right? Because things didn't necessarily get better. I wasn't like, oh, I'm never looking at porn after this again. I mean, that was my desire, but that just wasn't my process. It works like that for some people. It didn't work like that for me. It was a process. But I'm thankful for it because God walked with me in it. I didn't have to clean myself up the way I thought I needed to over the years. I came to him as I was, and he told me no condemnation because you are in Christ Jesus. And so, yeah, I've been walking with him ever since, and I think being on that shower floor crying and thanking God for who he is and for loving me so much was like the first time I really experienced real worship and probably the best worship I've experienced thus far. So thank you all.
We hope you enjoyed this message. Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Learn more at biola.edu.